let me share the screen.
Ma'am, first of all, I will give the welcome note, then you will start, ma'am. A very pleasant good afternoon. It is an immense pleasure to welcome you all to this 6th session of Faculty Development Program on Design and Development of Electric Vehicles, sponsored by AICTE Training and Learning Atal Academy, AICTE, New Delhi. I extend my hearty welcome to all the dignitaries and faculty members from the various institutions. It is my great privilege to introduce our resource person, Professor Dr. Sarika Srivastava. She is the Director, Ashoka Institute of Technology and Management, Varanasi, India, an integrated campus of engineering, management, and pharmacy, AICTE approved, affiliated to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Lucknow, India. She has more than 23 years of experience of academics, research, and industry. She did her BE on 1997 in electrical engineering from Government Engineering College, Jabalpur, MP, India, and MBA in marketing, MTech in power systems from KNIT, Sultanpur, India, and PhD in electrical engineering from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Lucknow. She is the fellow of the Institutions of Engineers. She has worked with Suzlon Energy Limited, Daman, India, as electrical engineer. She worked with WAAREE Instruments Limited, India, in NABL certified laboratory as electrical engineer. She is the chairperson of Ashoka Center for Innovation, Startup and Entrepreneurship, Varanasi. She has worked as principal, dean, academics, controller of examination, and head of the Department of Electrical Engineering in various AICTE engineering institutes. She is the advisor to Uravu Lab, Bangalore, India. Uravu Labs is developing technologies like solar power, atmospheric water generation, and decentralized grey water treatment to accelerate the progress towards water sustainability. She is the technical expert in UPPCL, UPRVN, and Cooperation Bank India. She has published more than 30 research papers in international national journals and conferences. She has published book chapters in Springer and other international publications. She has got one patent to her credentials. She has organized various conferences, FDPs, STCCs, and workshops. Also delivered the keynotes addresses in reputed institutes like IITs, IE, and RECs, etc. Her area of research include academics leadership, managing innovations and startups, policies and schemes of MSME, power system operation and control, wind energy technology, electrical vehicle technologies, modern optimization techniques, smart grid, renewable energy sources, and applications of artificial intelligence and evolutionary techniques. Now I invite her, such a wonderful personality, to take this session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Professor Robinson, for such a generous introduction. And it's my distinct privilege and pleasure to be a part of this FDP, which is sponsored by AICTE Atal. And the topic is very burning topic. It's design and development of electric vehicle. And it's really so happy to be part of this FDP. Thanks for inviting me. And I'm sharing my presentation. I welcome all the participants. Is it visible?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
Now it is visible, ma'am.
Okay. So, as we know, energy crisis and environmental issues have encouraged the adoption of electric vehicle as a transportation medium instead of conventional vehicles where those are driven by IC engines. And further, the development of smart grid infrastructure, electric vehicles are playing a big role as well. So there are a lot of reasons to be there for the development of electric vehicles, but it's as far as this technology, it's day by day it's improving with a lot of potential research, and it's still a lot more is need to be done. So let's initially I will give you a brief overview about the electric vehicle. Then we will see the integration of electric vehicle to grid. So my presentation will have these are the things that we are going to discuss. It's why electric vehicles are there, and their comparison with conventional IC engine vehicles, and what are the challenges, present challenges in the field of electric vehicle, Indian policies for electric EV charging infrastructure. As we know, infrastructure for charging is not developed yet, so it needs to be developed. Further, vehicle to grid and grid to vehicle charging. What's the technology behind it? Vehicle to grid technology. Brief introduction about it. Various types of power electronic converters which are used in electric vehicle. We will see its classification. And the most important one is, what are the challenges when we integrate electric vehicle to power grid? And it has got significant with the, as microgrids are basic building block of smart grids, electric vehicle load is it's got a huge, they are going to give strongly influence distribution systems infrastructure. Further, we will see a brief model, a small model of electric vehicle to grid. MATLAB model will be there, and for a small microgrid structure, and then we will conclude. So we know that it's a talk of the town in the automotive sector. Every automobile company, they are either they have launched a vehicle, they have electric vehicle in their pipeline, or they're developing in coming years or coming quarters. And all over the world, policymakers as well as government, everybody is going for electric vehicles. They have got various policies, various incentives to promote electric vehicle sale, and they have set various targets as well, so that conventional vehicles can be replaced with electric vehicles very soon, keeping in view the current environmental condition as well as energy crisis. So we know it is nothing but electric drive vehicle. Electric motor is going to drive the wheels, and it can be electric car, electric trains, electric trucks, any kind of vehicles which is already there can be converted into, can be replaced with electric vehicle. It's a scooter, motorcycle, spacecraft, etc. Are you able to follow me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if we talk about their various types, so the one is plug-in electric vehicle, like various like e-rickshaws that we are saying. They are working only on electricity. They have to be plugged in for charging, and if they do not have any petrol and diesel engine sort of thing, so there is no emission as such. Further, the next category is plug-in hybrid. So hybrid vehicles are not new. We know Camry, Honda, they have this model is not new. There are so many other companies, they have got hybrid models of their vehicles, but in plug-in hybrid, the mainly they are going to run on electricity, and it can be charged, it can be plugged in to charge, and further there is traditional fuel engine as well, to switch it to petrol or diesel whenever it is required. And hybrid electric vehicles, They are mainly, these are the older ones. Hybrid electric vehicles, they are already running on petrol and diesel, but they have got electric battery too, but which is charged through regenerative braking, not through plug-in electric vehicle. It's not, we cannot plug in to charge it. So mainly these three kinds of categories are there. We are mainly concerned with plug-in electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, which is going to replace the current IC engine vehicles. So these are the various types of, they have got various ranges. And further, if we talk about its basic parts, it's there is electric motor, definitely electric motor is there, inverter circuit is there, drivetrain, battery, and charging. So charging whenever it's going to be, battery needs to be charged frequently, and battery is going to be connected with in converter circuit. It's inverter or converter circuit, and that converter circuit is going to connect it with electric motor, and that electric motor is going to drive the wheels. So this is the basic internal structure of electric vehicle. And electric traction motor is, can be any kind of, it can be a permanent magnet motor, it can be induction motor. There are power electronic controllers. There are a lot of things to be controlled, like the charging state of charge of battery, and level of whenever level of charging of battery is down, it needs to be plugged in. We need to control the converters, DC to DC converter, thermal system, small thermal system for cooling, and there can be onboard chargers, as well as it has got traction battery back. It is the main component of electric vehicle, that is battery bank. Battery bank is the main component of electric vehicle, and a lot of research is going on in this field, and still the cost of electric vehicle is very high due to huge cost of battery, and further we need to reduce the size of the battery as well. So if we compare electric vehicle and internal combustion engine cars, so electric vehicle has got 90% less moving part, and less moving part means less maintenance. So these are the main parts that we have seen. So electric motors that rotates the wheel. It can be AC motor, it can be DC motors, but AC motors are much more common, like the three-phase induction motors or permanent magnet synchronous motors. These are AC motors. They are more common. Further, inverters, converter circuit, it converts electric current in the form of DC to AC. Drivetrain, there is no gearbox kind of arrangement, so single speed transmission system is there. Battery is very much integral part, soul of electric vehicle. Store the electricity it requires to, it drives the electric vehicle, and it drives motor, and motor drives wheels, and there will be plug-in point, charging point will be there to charge the battery. And currently the various types of motors which are very much in use are permanent magnet motors. These are synchronous motors, three-phase AC motors, and mostly used in electric vehicles, as they have got high efficiency. They provide high efficiency and high torque. It's very much required to have high efficiency. Torque is a very high, it's an important component. Constant, it should have short, but its limitation is short constant power range. And induction motor, they are, even in industry, most of the motors, 80% of the motors used in industry are induction motor type. So they are very rugged, very robust kind of structure. So induction motors are quite popular. Tesla and Toyota, they are already using it, and they're simple, robust, they have got wide speed range. So they're, depending on the size of the motor, the class of the vehicle, the price of the vehicle, a lot of ranges of vehicles are already there. And So these are the motors of the various ratings can be incorporated, but they are less efficient than permanent magnet motor, but their speed range is wider. So there is a trade-off between cost and efficiency. Further, switch reluctance motors, they are capable to provide extremely high speed, but they are not very widely used. They are in the stage of development themselves. So if we talk about batteries which are used in electric vehicle, they can be like lead as conventional, and its technology is already matured. Lead acid battery, we know it for years. So, these are the batteries: the lead acid battery, nickel cadmium battery, nickel metal hydride battery. Lithium ion is the battery which is mostly used in electric vehicles now. In upcoming vehicles, lithium ion batteries are being used, and they have got various advantages, like they have got higher efficiency, their power to weight ratio is high, low charging time. They need the constraint with electric vehicle is that we need to have very small charging time, and they should give better output as well as lifetime of battery. It's very crucial. In 3 years, if battery is going to be replaced, and it's a huge component of cost, so it's going to be very costly affair. So lithium ion batteries are working well, and they have got better longer lifetime compared to previous remaining batteries, and they have got a reduced environmental impact as well. Once these batteries are completely exhausted, they have to be disposed of, so their disposal may further give environmental impact. So they have reduced environment impact as compared to other ones. If we talk about another component of electric vehicle is onboard charger. Takes the incoming, as we know, it takes the electricity supplied by the charging port and convert into DC for charging that battery. Battery, as we know it, we are using inverter in our homes. So whenever battery is to be charged, it is with the help of DC. So the converter converts AC into DC, charges the battery, and then battery will convert. Another side converter will be there that will give will convert DC into AC to feed it to motor. It monitors battery characteristics such as voltage, current, temperature, and state of charge by charging the pack. So these are the various parameters which are to be taken care of. Further, power electronics controller is there that manages the flow of electrical energy delivered by the traction battery. It controls the speed of electric motor and torque it is produced. Because depending on the requirement of speed for vehicle, we need to control the speed of the machine. Further, the torque. If we need to change the torque, it has to be there with the help of. We need to have controllers to control these parameters. Torque of the motor as well as speed of the motor. It can be controlled with the help of power electronic controllers. So normally electric cars have 72 to 100 HP engine, depends on the size of the vehicle, type of the vehicle. And there are vehicles, those can be driven up to 160 kilometer before needing recharging. The time it takes to charge the electric car can vary from 30 minutes to more than 12 hours. So earlier there were technologies were not matured enough, so charging time was very large, but now a lot of work has been done. So there are electric cars, those can be charged in 30 minutes as well. It depends upon the size of the battery and capacity of charging point. Both of the elements are equally important. If the size of battery is big, it's going to, it may take more time to charge, as well as what's the capacity of charging point. Charging points of various capacities are already there.
मतलब फुल वॉल्यूम पे मत बोलेगा। अपने डेवलपर ऑप्शन में कर,
मैं
डेवलपर ऑप्शन में ना एब्सोल्यूट वॉल्यूम पे कर दीजिए, मतलब हमेशा फुल पे रहे।
मैडम, एक्सक्यूज मी मैडम।
No audio.
Am I audible now?
हाँ, yes madam, yes madam.
Okay. So different types of chargers are available. 3.75 kilowatt charger, it can charge for the distance up to 25 kilometers. 7.5 kilowatt rating charger is there. It's comparatively faster, and so it can charge up to 50 kilometers. Then 22 kilowatt chargers and up to 150 kilowatt rapid chargers are there. And if it's not 160, we can say that up to 300 kilometers in 30 minutes. So it's a very high speed charger. In 30 minutes, if we charge it with the battery for 30 minutes, we can drive up to 300 kilometers. So there are various kinds of batteries which are using by Nissan, Tesla model, and Mitsubishi. They are using different kinds of batteries. Battery life is, or specification of battery is given in kilowatt hour, ampere hour, or kilowatt hour. Usually in electric vehicles, its rating is given in kilowatt hour. So there are specification already mentioned. So it's going to be look like this. Your charging port is there, electric vehicle charging port is there, and this is the charging unit. And there can be public charging units. It's already there, and more need to be developed. So why we are going for electric vehicles? There, because around 14% of the direct emission is done by transport sector. So like conventional vehicles, combustion engine, IC engine vehicles, either petrol or diesel, they are a big source of environmental issues and pollution. So out of the total pollution, 25% contribution is given by electricity, as most of the electricity is produced by thermal power stations, and other agricultural and forestry, 24%, building 6.4%, and transportation sector is producing 14%. So it's a huge one. Very high pollution is being contributed by transport. We need to address this issue. And industry is further giving 21%, and this is the indirect way of carbon emission, CO2 emission, and the contribution of transport is 0.3%. And if we see the global scenario, situation in India is the highest emitter of greenhouse gases is China, followed by USA, and India is producing greenhouse gases of 6.4%. So that is why these countries, China and the US, they are very much after electric vehicles, because their greenhouse emission is much more higher. So if we compare the technologies, compare the requirements, existing infrastructure of charging, it requires huge investment on it. And further, in India, if we talk about the main source of electricity generation, electric vehicles themselves are going to need energy. They are also requiring electric energy to charge them, and to cater that energy requirement, we need to have more stable sources like conventional sources like thermal power station and all. And they are going to further generate a lot of pollution. So it's a cyclic process. So on one way, we are trying to reduce the pollution, and by integrating electric vehicle to grid, we are giving rise to more pollution by installation of new thermal power stations. So there should be an optimal situation. We have to see both the things, that how much implementation is possible in that scenario. So if we see the advantages of electric vehicle, it's already known that it's quite clean and easy to use. Further, their control is quite simple. They are high weight to power to weight ratio, so size of the vehicle is compact as well as weight is significantly reduced. Simple in design, less components, less maintenance. So quite efficient as a rotational parts are reduced, so its further efficiency is high. No exhaust emission, no catalytic converter is required, so it further reduces the maintenance cost. And definitely electric vehicles are, if we talk about green scenarios, so green, they are weighing much more than conventional vehicle. So there are two types of technologies which are prevailing. One which is using overhead electric network, and another is onboard battery charger or fuel cell as the source. And remaining technologies same as conventional vehicles. Battery has been used for many years, but only the charging system has been improved. And in future, we may expect reduced price, further reduction in size and weight, and increase in the capacity of the battery. Now, currently we are hesitant. All of us are quite hesitant about what kind of facility will be there for charging our vehicle. Our vehicle is discharged. How can we move further to get it charged? Such kind of insecurities are already there. So definitely increase in capacity of battery is very much required. And standard features are there, that is smoothness, it's quite smooth, and speed brakes, accelerator. Other features are quite similar to accelerator, tire, CD player, and every other aspect. Accessories are quite similar to conventional vehicles. But one thing is there, it's quite easy to refuel a conventional vehicle because petrol stations are available everywhere. And in present scenario, charging stations are only in few major cities, very few in numbers and not available in all countries. And further, the charging stations are there for small vehicles like e-rickshaws and cars, but not for heavy vehicles, buses and trucks. So very small number of this infrastructure needs to be developed. Then only we can expect a transformation. Further, electric vehicles, as they are new and its technology is new, that's why they are expensive compared to conventional vehicle. And then, presently charging infrastructure needs to be developed. That's why it's costly. Once it will be developed, then its running cost is going to be reduced. And for presently, the bus, trucks, and boats and train, these categories have to have their own charging infrastructure. Public charging infrastructure is not available. So these are some of the prices. So in India, we are facing various challenges. In India, so far, we have only 350 public electric vehicle charging compared to around 57,000 petrol pumps. Further, this data is of previous year, so we can expect there will be some increment, but still there is a huge gap. According to a new energy finance report, an electric vehicle with commuting distance of 30 to 40 kilometers needs 6 to 8 kilowatt of energy. And we know that in small households, 1 kilowatt hour is nothing but 1 unit. When normal small household, we use 5 to 6 up to 10, around 8 to 10 units of energy in a day if we are not using AC. So so it's a huge requirement. So energy requirement of electric vehicle is not as small. Just for traveling 30 to 40 kilometers, we have to give 6 to 8 units of energy to it. And there are further technical barriers are mostly related to battery constraints of battery technology, efficiency of battery. We already discussed the charging time should be small, driving range should be bigger. We should have a longer span of driving. And the present major barrier is their low specific energy, and most of the batteries used earlier are lead acid battery. Now we expect that in coming years more use of lithium ion battery will be there. And are we on the same page? Are you following me? Yeah. Can I continue?
Yes, madam. We are following you, madam.
So shall I continue?
Go ahead, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's already there that we require huge battery, and to address all the constraints, lithium ion and lithium sulfur batteries are there. Their technologies are being developed, and they are going to address these issues: reduced range, long charging period, less power or expenses. Cost is a big factor. Once the cost of the battery, we are able to develop the kind of batteries which are able to give longer speed range. They consume less power, and small amount of pollution is being produced by them. And the most important, if we can make cost effective batteries, definitely the scenario will be quite different. But one major constraint is still there. It is possible to fill petrol in a car using petrol can anywhere, but electric car cannot be taken to charging station. Mobile charging stations are not there. We know it. So it's a practical reality. If we face such kind of situation that our petrol is exhausted, our diesel is exhausted, we can fill a can and refill our vehicle, and we can continue our journey. But as mobile charging stations are not there, an electric car has to be taken to charging station by any other, by towing or other means. It's going to be a big problem. So what is required, that we need to have more charging stations, and battery capacity should be higher. So MNRE, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, has issued guidelines for typical charging stations. So now public charging stations are not only the solution. Anybody, any entity can go for installing charging stations. And guidelines are like this, that there will be public charging stations for every 3 square kilometers, and between intracity there will be after every 25 kilometer there should be a charging station. If we are traveling intercity, fast charging station should be there in every 100 kilometers. So all such kind of charging and infrastructure structure is under development. And 6 to 7 million units of new vehicle sales of full range of electric vehicles, along with resultant liquid fuel saving of 2.5 to 2.2 to 2.5 million tons can be achieved. So, huge saving of liquid fuel, which is our target. There are two aspects. One is reducing environmental impact, and second one is cost-effective solution, replacing the requirement of liquid fuels, diesel, petrol with electricity. Further, it's going to be quite economical. Cost of electricity in current cost of electricity is much more cheaper than any kind of fuels, fossil fuels. So a lot of research and development activity is going on. National labs, international collaborations are there. Setting a public charging station has been delicensed. That means any individual or entity is free to set up, because current infrastructure is very, very weak. We need to have such kind of policy that anyone can, more charging stations should come up. So new guidelines have been issued, or there are charges of different standards, AC as well as DC charges are there, and the individual can choose any kind of charges. For intercity travels, fast charging stations will be installed at every 100 kilometers, and BEE is the central nodal agency for implementation of the installation of charging infrastructure. There are two types of charger: Bharat EV Charger AC 001 and Bharat EV Charger DC 001. So these are the standard protocols of Indian government. Different kind of chargers which are available internationally. These are the various kinds of chargers. It's like our AC plugs only, so those kind of things there. So various companies or they have got various model: Tata Nexon, Morris Garage, Hyundai, Tata, Mahindra. They have already Nissan, Tata, Audi. Every automobile company is launching or already have launched electric vehicles. So in India also, solar panel on the roof of Riva and XR concept car is there. Eddy current control, Lovebirds, Mahindra E20, Verito. Both the models of Mahindra has got another model, that is KUV. Its E model is already there. Tata Tiago and lot more. So now we are coming to integration of electric vehicle to grid. So as we know, it's development of a smart grid infrastructure is there, and it's in conventional scenario of grid, a power grid, two-way communication was not that much possible. In a smart grid scenario, it's possible to have two-way control, two-way communication. So various types of power sources are there. High voltage, we can classify power sources into renewable and non-renewable energy. And high voltage network is there. Then medium voltage network will be there. The distributed generation is a buzzword in electrical engineering. So microgrid is basic building block of any smart grid. It is itself is as the word is saying, microgrid. It's in itself is an entity which is able to generate and fulfill their own requirement. EV charging station is connected to, it's a pool of electric EV charging and infrastructure which is connected to medium voltage network and low voltage network. LV load, domestic load, and various commercial loads, they are connected with low voltage network. Smart home, and our houses are connected with low voltage distribution network, and electric vehicles can be charged at home as well. So further, if there is some apartment kind of thing and parking lot is there, parking area is there, and a lot of electric vehicles are already parked, they can be clubbed with, they can be connected with grid for exchange of power with grid. So there will be power line communication as well as information communication. So with the advancement in the technology of smart grid, role of electric vehicle is very vital. So vehicle to grid technology is there. With this, we can exchange the power with power grid, electric vehicle, and power grid. They can bidirectional flow of energy, bidirectional flow of power is possible, and there are some various advantages as well as challenges which can be offered by electric vehicle. The advantages are like it can regulate power grid because electric vehicles are load as well as generator. They are having dual property. When they are being charged, when they are charging, we are charging electric vehicle, they are acting as a load. And when it is fully charged and we are giving supply to the grid, then they are acting as a generating station. So if peak hours are there, peak load requirement is there in grid, we can supplement that requirement with the help of electric vehicle batteries. Pool of battery, virtual bank of batteries there, which can be used for frequency regulation, voltage regulation. It's acting as spinning reserve. So base load plants are already there. Further, a lot of renewable sources, which are intermittent sources of energy, like solar stations, solar farms, and wind farms are there, and they are uncertain in producing power. If some kind of weather conditions are not favorable and shading is there, then solar power is not able to give energy. Similarly, if wind conditions are not within the range, if it is below the cut-in speed of a wind turbine, or it is out of the maximum speed limit, then in both the condition, wind turbine will not be able to cater the energy requirement. And conventional sources like thermal power plant, nuclear power plant, diesel, hydro, they are the base sources. So we can use electric vehicles as spinning reserves. Peak load shaving. So if later we will see the kind of pattern we are commercial loads are and domestic load is being used. So peak loads can be shared with electric vehicles. We can charge the vehicle when electricity, less number of loads are connected to the grid, and we can discharge the electric vehicles when peak load requirement is there. So there should always be, for stable operation of the power system, what is required, there should be demand supply gap should be minimum. Matching of demand and supply should be there. Otherwise, what needs to be done, it will lead to tripping. The kind of, as we are presently, the kind of weather conditions, overloading is there. So some of the feeders will be out of work. They will be tripped. Frequent trippings will be there because of overloading. So frequent faults will be there due to heating and short circuits, etc. So we can share that load with the help of electric vehicles. And load leveling, we can offer power sharing and valley filling. If power requirement is very low during nights, in those hours we can charge our vehicle. So load will be leveled. Further, reactive power compensation can be provided with the help of electric vehicles. So this is one of the scenario. Plug-in electric vehicles are there. They are connected to EV charging station, and their energy storage is nothing but battery, which is connected with the help of our converters and controllers to grid. And for the solar panels are there, they can also be used to charge the electric vehicles. So it is possible to store surplus energy generated from intermittent renewable solar and wind sources. Here solar panels are there during day hours when the solar panels are able to produce store energy. Their energy converted by them can be stored in batteries of electric vehicle. And during peak hours, during non-peak hours, we can charge the vehicles, and during peak hours, we can feed power back to grid whenever it is required. And it will definitely improve the performance of the grid. And as well as it's going to reduce the cost of the electricity. So this is the basic diagram. Like this is electric vehicle, exchange of bidirectional flow of power is there. This is electric vehicle charging, and this is grid. As we know, grid is working on AC. So AC to DC converter will convert the AC into DC, and this is coupling capacitor. And with the help of various converter technologies, various types of converter technologies, required voltage, DC voltage will be given to the battery, and that battery will further charge the electric vehicle. It will drive the electric vehicle. But there are a lot of, when a large number of electric vehicles are connected to grid, this will disturb the existing conditions. V2G is vehicle to grid, refers to interaction between electric vehicle and power grid with the assistance of communication system. Definitely communication is required. If somebody has got electric vehicle and he is ready to cater energy to grid, there should be some kind of communication medium, either in the form of mobile or some kind of other system, so that he can communicate with utilities to supply the power to the grid. Power grid operator utilize the communication facility to control and manage the power flow between EV battery and power grid. So there is one-to-one communication. This is a smart grid. So the smart grid is using various IoT devices. And smart meters are already there. Phasor measurement units, PMUs are there for real-time monitoring of various parameters. And ultimately, what is the objective of V2G management? We have to maximize the profit. We have to reduce the emission. And ultimately, these two factors are important, but it should not be compromised. There should not be any compromise with the power quality which is being fed to the grid. Whenever there is inclusion of power electronic devices will lead to production of harmonics, and these harmonics may be injected into power grid. And these harmonics are very harmful for the various devices which are being connected to them, and they will travel, they will rise to various abnormal conditions. So new significant research work is going on in the field of developing the converter technologies which are able to reduce the total harmonic distortion, THD, which measures the quality of power in the rather presence of harmonics. Harmonic percentage of harmonic should be as small as possible. Then THD is the indicator of it. So THD should be quite small. So different kind of converter technologies are there, and further everyday new technologies are coming which are able to provide power with right kind of quality. There are two kinds of V2G chargers. One is unidirectional, And unidirectional technology controls the charging rate of EV in a single power direction between EV and grid only. And whereas unidirectional V2G services are limited by, it is able to provide SLE services. It's obvious that if vehicle is connected to grid and only unidirectional charging is there, what does it mean? It does mean that we are able to charge the vehicle from grid. But to exchange the power, exchange means the direction from vehicle to grid as well as grid to vehicle, we need to have bidirectional charges. So while unidirectional charges are able to provide only one directional charging, with the help of bidirectional bidirectional technology, we can have the benefits which are associated with power system, like we can reduce, as we already discussed, we can level the load, voltage can be regularized, frequency can be regulated. Frequency is a very significant factor for stability of the grid. Now the whole country is working on one frequency, one nation. So stringent control on frequency is required for stable operation. So with the help of electric vehicle, it's possible to control the speed, or rather speed of the synchronous generator, rather, which is going to control the frequency. Voltage regulation is another factor, and for voltage regulation, reactive power support is required. There are three kinds of power in electrical engineering. One is apparent, real power or true power, or active power, and reactive power. So apparent power, active power, and reactive power. Active power is the power which is used by all the electrical loads, and reactive power requirement is there for induction machines, asynchronous machines, and asynchronous motors. So if reactive power requirement, if loads starts to drive like reactive power, it will disrupt the voltage of the system. And as we know, electric vehicles are able to give reactive power support, better voltage regulation can be provided with the help of electric vehicles. And we have already discussed that it acts like a virtual power plant, pool of electric cars. Lot of, suppose if we are talking about a big parking station, parking area, and various electric cars are already there, the collective capacity of the batteries will act as a virtual power plant. So electric cars can store and dispatch the electrical energy stored in network vehicles, and one collective feet of battery will can handle peak shaving, sending power back to grid when demand is high. What is mean by peak shaving? When peaks are there, load requirement, whenever load requirement is very high, what can be done? Sending power back to grid when demand is high. And valley filling, what does it mean? Charging at night when demand is low. So it is again the similar kind of thing. The control signal from the grid operator could be a broadcast radio signal, a cell phone network, or a power line carrier communication. So these are the various way of communicating, and in future it's going to be cell phone based. Most of the you will get the message. There will be one kind of app so that you can communicate with utilities with the to exchange the power, to permit them to exchange the power. And grid operators send request for power to a large number of vehicles. You will get the message that there is a requirement of power. If you are willing, you can send it to the grid. And the signal may go directly to each individual vehicle, or it can be given to a fleet of operator or to a third-party aggregator to dispatch power for individual. It's like solar power. Currently, the kind of solar power exchange of power is there. It is similar to that only. But in solar, we don't have any reservations to not to give them surplus of energy is there. But in case of electric vehicles, a lot of apprehensions are there that suppose I have to travel, if my vehicle is not fully charged, how can I give it to grid? If there will be any kind of an emergency arise, how will I handle that situation? So such kind of problems may be there. So that kind of mindset has to be changed. So power electronic converters are considered as a main element for interfacing electric vehicle to grid, and to design highly efficient converters for electric power system, advanced DC to DC and DC to AC converters are required to adopt and output voltage and current level with high power quality. So there are two types, two modes. One is connected to one converter which is connected to grid, that is AC to DC, and another converter which is connected with output of this converter to battery, to charge the battery, that is DC to DC. So the DC to DC converter is used to allow a direct desired level of DC base voltage to obtain without having to increase the stake size. So, so a battery has got a certain level of voltage, 6 volt, 12 volt, 24 also, without, we can have multiple units which are connected together to get a certain level of voltage. So to match that level of voltage, a DC to DC converter is used to charge the battery. So definitely effectiveness of electric vehicle is largely depends upon the interface between electric energy system and power electronic converters. And the power delivered by energy storage system illustrates unstable, unregulated, and substantial voltage drops. To overcome these limitations, electric vehicle converters, controllers, and modulation techniques are necessary to achieve a secure and reliable power transfer from energy storage system to electric motor. You see, the battery may be charged to a different level, and further, the motor which is to be driven, the electric vehicle which is to be driven, its requirement of speed, its requirement of torque may be different. So we need to have very efficient control over the speed of machine, the motor, speed of the torque of the motor, and controllers are there to control these parameters of motor. And definitely input to the motor is what? Output of battery. And what is the component which is interconnecting battery and which is acting as a interface? Converters. Converters are connecting battery to motor as well. So what is required, that efficient controls and efficient modulation techniques are required so that we can have, instead of unstable, unregulated supply, we should have very quite stable and regulated supply, so that efficient operation of vehicle can be obtained. So presently there are various based conventional engines, their requirement of component is less, but their maintenance is very high, cost is very high. Here the main cost of battery is there. You see the kind of earlier the PV technology, which is quite mature now. In last 15 years, 15 years back, the cost of solar panels were huge, but with the improvement in technology, with the improvement in inverter technologies, now it's possible to have inverters at a very reasonable price as well as with very high quality. We can hope the same kind of scenario for electric vehicle batteries as well. But presently, what are the hurdles? It has got large number of components, high current stress is there, high switching losses are there, frequent switching is there. Either we are charging it or we are discharging it. Slow dynamic response, computational complexity, we can see when there is some kind of bridge is there, flyover is there, the electric vehicle, they are facing such kind of problem. To address these shortcomings, intelligent controllers are used and they are able to provide excellent dynamic control and improved stability and outstanding transit response. So why we are using controller? To obtain steady state and dynamic characteristic, a short settling time, fast response, reduce errors, and further EMI interference, electromagnetic interference from other nearby magnetic devices should be reduced. Switching losses should be less, and current stresses should be minimized. So while designing any controller, these are the key factors which are to be kept in mind. So various types of a lot of new technologies are coming up. Further, they are added with AI techniques, they are added with evolutionary techniques, algorithms. So these are the basic kind of topologies used in converters. The converter is switch, capacitor, coupled inductor, quasi-Z source, multi-device interleaved. You may choose the kind of converter which suits to your pocket, which suits to your requirement, which suits to your country's requirement, which suits to grid codes. Grid code is one thing which regulates the rules for connection of devices to grid. So we have to abide by those rules as well. If those rules are very stringent in the respective countries, so the kind of converter that you are using should have, it's going to be chosen on that basis. It should be highly efficient. It's like if you're buying one Alto or you are buying Fortuner, there is a difference in the luxury it's being provided, difference in the various features it has got. So similarly, the kind of technologies you are going to use, your choice is going to depend upon it. And so further, it can be isolated or it can be push-pull, flyback, resonant, zero voltage switching, multi-port control. It can be PI control, AI neutral and neural network based control may be there. Predictive model can be there. Mainly pulse width modulation is used, and optimization has got a very big role in optimizing the charging of battery and distributing the load. I think yesterday you had one session on optimization of battery charging. Is it so? You had one session on optimization of battery, as it I saw in your schedule of FDP. Okay, anyway. So these are the various types of converters, the converter, and another one is switched capacitor bidirectional converter. It has got high efficiency, but able to handle low voltage stress. Further, couple inductor structure is there, quasi-Z transport converter is there, and multi-device interleaved bidirectional converter. It's quite efficient. Power conversion rate is very good, able to provide stable operation. Bidirectional battery charger is there. This is electric vehicle battery, and this is DC part, and this is AC part. So this converter is converting AC into DC, and this is coupling capacitor, and this is converting DC to DC from to match the level of the battery. So it has got two stages or two parts. One is grid side converter and another is battery side converter. This is which side converter? This is grid side converter. It is AC to DC, and this is your DC to DC. So grid side converter is AC to DC converter, whereas battery side converter is DC to DC converter. During charging mode grid to vehicle, the converter transfers the power from grid to charge the battery. The grid side converter uses different half bridges to convert AC power on different input voltage. And during this charging mode, the power inside the battery is inversely fed back to either the grid or to the load. So that it's a power can be, the direction of power can be from grid to vehicle, or it can be from vehicle to grid. During charging, when we are charging the battery, the direction of power is from grid to battery. And when we are feeding it to grid, the direction of power will be from electric vehicle to DC to DC converter, then AC, DC to AC converter, and AC will be given to grid. So during V2G, vehicle to grid, the grid side converter operates in current mode control, which regulates the grid current to be a low harmonic sinusoidal current. What is required? That presence of harmonic should be less and the current should be sinusoidal. These are the basic requirement of power quality. Good power quality is known as the power quality of power is defined by its voltage, its current, frequency, and then wave, sinusoidal wave should be there, and there should not be presence of harmonic. So we need to feed the grid current to low frequency, grid to low frequency, low harmonic sinusoidal current, 50 hertz current. While in V2H, in India, the standard is 50 and in US it's 60 hertz. While in V2H, the converter operates in voltage mode control. So there are two modes of operation. During V2G, it operates in current control mode, and in V2H, the converter operates in voltage mode control. It regulates the output voltage to be sinusoidal with any type of mode. The battery side converter in both modes regulates the DC bus voltage by operating in boost. So buck boost converters are used. Buck boost converters are there to change the level of voltage. And it can be unidirectional V2G, it can be bidirectional. These are the various parameters which can be regulated by V2G technology. While unidirectional V2G is able to provide spinning reserve and grid regulation, bidirectional is able to provide a large number of advantages. So further, while optimization, these are the various parameters. We need to have a trade-off between various things. On one hand, we want very high quality, very high efficient system, but at the same time, what we want, less cost as well. So there are various optimization constraints: preferred profile optimization, load profile optimization, cost optimization, emission, revenue, loss, power loss. They are talking about revenue should be high, cost efficiency optimization, cost emission optimization, system reliability, and these are the various constraints. These are the various factors which are to be, and the constraints are EV availability, whether when all such things are optimized and electric vehicle is not available to connect with grid, so there is no point in calculation, because if your owner of electric vehicle is not ready to give supply, what can you do? EV charging and discharging rate is a big thing, as we know at our home as well. whenever battery gets old, it needs to be replaced, or it gives a lot of problem. Charging it and discharging of battery is a big problem. It's not able to give sufficient backup. So EV charging and discharging rate, battery state of charge limitation, EV owners and aggregator decision. So it's a very strong, though it doesn't seem to be that important, but it is one of the major component. Charge electricity rates. If the rate at which the person is charging and the rate at which it has to give it to grid, if it is not viable solution, it's not beneficial, profitable to the owner or aggregator, they may refuse. System power balance should be there, power equipment limitations are already there, so charger capacitor. So these are the various factors which are to be considered when designing the chargers and converters as well as control for V2G technology. So let's see the various challenges with electric vehicle to grid. Can we have a small break of 2 minutes? Or shall we continue? Yes, please let me know. Okay. Should I continue? So various challenges are there when we are connecting electric vehicle to grid. We have so one is battery degradation issue. It's a very much prevalent problem with wherever batteries are there. This problem is there. As in case of electric vehicle, that frequent charging and discharging cycle is very common. Whenever battery is connected to grid, either it is charging or it is discharging, it's going to affect the life of the battery. Battery may be degraded in a very short span of time. Life of battery is very much compromised. And the complexity of bidirectional battery charger requires additional hardware and loads to need for extra investment. And if unidirectional battery charger is there, its requirement is very simple, like we are charging our in our homes as we are charging our inverter batteries. So it's a unidirectional battery charger is there. So it's not that much complicated. But if we are interconnecting it with grid, so battery charger must have additional features, must have additional hardware, should have very sophisticated and advanced technology to integrate it to grid, because it has to deal with various issues of power quality as well as specifications laid down by the utilities, leads to need for extra investment. Definitely, their bidirectional charges will have more hardware requirement and extra cost will be involved. So this is the issue. For security reasons, EV owners will usually try to have high battery state of charge. What EV owners will prefer to have? It's like we want always to have our petrol tank or diesel tank to be filled up. We don't know whenever an emergency will be there, whenever we have to move out. So similarly, owners will also want to have high battery state of charge for unexpected traveling uses. This will prevent them from actively participating in integration with the grid services. So when you require, definitely you are taking the supply from the grid. But when grid is requiring you, you may or you may not be agreed to do it. So while the system is there to exchange the power, cost is involved to you are spending extra money on bidirectional battery charger, but the facility is not being utilized, so it's creating a problem. And it involves various non-linear system is there. Further mobility constraints are there. So unpredictable variables are very much. And charging behavior of electric vehicle is quite uncertain, and it leads to EV charging, randomness of EV charging, and it leads to bad effect on the reliability of the power system. And are already industrial loads are integrated to distribution system. Further, a new component, that is electric vehicle, is there. Whether it is one-way charging, unidirectional, or two-way charging, it may be integrated to grid, it may not be integrated. But one thing is for sure, it's definitely going to derive the power from grid. So there may be new peak loads when EVs are integrated into grid during peak load period. So already some peak is there, like in the evening, maximum load is connected to the grid. Already our system, our existing infrastructure is working on its upper limit. We know it. Our existing infrastructure of electricity, existing transmission line, distribution line, they are working on their upper limits. Maximum power transfer capacity is being utilized. And further, we are going to add a load which is of electric vehicle. We are not, it's not so that if we are using electric vehicles, we are not using other domestic appliances or other industrial facilities or other commercial services. Those loads are already there. And apart from those loads, one additional load of electric vehicle is integrating. So this will definitely going to burden our power system, and this may give instability to the power system. And power electronic converter, we already discussed it, that it gives rise to poor power quality. And suitable power converter technologies like smart converters, multi-raven inverters are to be used to reduce total harmonic distortion. These technologies will require additional cost. EVs can provide peak reserve capacity. They cannot be used as firm peaking capacity because of their uncertain availability. While if we talk about wind power plant, if we talk about solar power plant, they are already uncertain. But uncertainty level of electric vehicle is further more. It's higher than existing non-intermittent sources of energy. Like solar energy availability is not available 24/7. We know it. Wind power is not available throughout the day because of the variation in the wind velocity throughout the day. Another one component which is being integrated is further, it's very uncertain, electric vehicle. So indirectly, it's going to affect transmission grid as well. And it has got very strong impact on distribution grid already. So we can see that these issues are going to, we don't know if our infrastructure and our system is not improved enough, they may create another problems. So though our national policies and efforts is a lot of efforts are being put into this direction, but it has to be developed as early as possible. Then only such problems can be addressed. So plug-in and hybrid electric vehicles generate, inject, and consume energy within the consumption centers, has a significant impact on the distribution system. There will be increase in the common household electricity consumption due to EV charging per month. Our electricity bills are going to be high. Earlier, very less number of ACs were there. With existing with current conditions, most of the people are using, most of the houses are having refrigerators are very old one. ACs are everywhere. Now, the most of the houses will have one more component of load, that is electric. So electricity consumption is going to be high. There will be many electric vehicles which will be getting charged overnight. Charging of electric vehicle at night will help the distribution network infrastructure by having more uniform loading pattern than what is in the present time. So if we connect electric vehicle for charging in the night, then the overall requirement of load is less, more uniform loading pattern will be there. And better base load on the distribution network means better capacity utilization and better voltage regulation. And electric vehicle owners can buy electricity from the market at valley hours to charge vehicles and sell it at peak hours by taking advantage of the EV storage capacity. EVs as an energy storage device can help the conventional frequency regulation, system fluctuations, and further frequent charging and discharging will reduce the life of the distribution transformer. Already a lot of loads are there, very high loads are there on existing distribution pole mounted transformers. We have are in vicinity in our neighborhoods. We have got various distribution transformers, and every on and off we see that due to overloading, their life is short circuit, various kind of faults are occurring there. And with frequent EV charging load, their life may further be reduced. So this is AC to DC bidirectional inverter, and this is control unit. And National Renewable Energy Laboratory, NREL, it's addressing various bottlenecks which are there in the field of electric vehicles and supporting research-based activities. The people who are very much interested to pursue their research in the field of electric vehicle, they may go through it, the kind of facilities they are providing, they are ready to share, they are ready to handhold the research work in the field of electric vehicle. And various government agencies are already supporting for the research in the field of electric vehicles and energy efficient technology, deployment of renewable energy. So further, it's going HLL, hardware and loop capabilities are already there, which can be used for managing grid impact of electric vehicles. These are the hardware based, it's not only simulation based, it's a hardware based system, prototype kind of testing infrastructure is there, so that you can real impact of grid can be seen with the help of HLS. These are the various kind of, this is electric vehicle and charging stations, and research electric distribution to enable utilization of all other labs capability, and electromechanical battery for behind the meter storage, and electric vehicle grid integration. This is renewable sources. This is your, it's a, let the star of transmission tower is representing grid, and so it's the whole thing is forming a new infrastructure. And NREL is working with other national labs to develop a megawatt scale charging system for medium and heavy duty electric vehicles. We see that charging stations for small capacity electric vehicles are there, but for heavy vehicles and medium vehicles, it's that facility is not there. For small, we have got. Though it's very small in numbers, it has to be developed further. But in medium and heavy electric vehicles, facility is very, very limited. So it has to be developed. So they are trying to develop megawatt scale charging systems, huge charging stations, so that they can charge at a very high speed of 30 minutes at reasonable cost. So these are the various, this is recharging stations. These are the heavy and medium vehicles, and 13.8 kV AC. This is the charging line voltage. High voltage DC is 1000 volt. If it is AC, then it is 11.3 kV charging, and if it is DC, it's going to be 1000 kV charging. So this is on the site, photovoltaic solar panels, rooftop solar panels can be there. This is on-site energy storage system is there. On-site and other kind of diesel generator kind of generation facility can be there. AC to DC converter is there, 1 megawatt multi-port network. Like in your existing petrol stations, petrol pumps, we have got various terminals for charging. So similarly, this is the charging infrastructure for various, charging various vehicles simultaneously. So 1 megawatt plus multi-port network. So its capacity is going to be more than 1 megawatt. So this is distribution power line, and with the help of distribution power line as well as solar power, we can convert the power being delivered by grid as well as by local solar photovoltaic cell to converter, and this both of them are in if it is, we can convert with the help of AC to DC converter into DC and give the supply to different kind of different vehicles. And if both of them are unavailable, still you have to charge them. There should be some backup arrangement. So on-site generation like diesel generator may be there. So in case of emergency, we can convert its power also into DC to get it supplied to the various batteries. And thermal cooling is there, limited thermal cooling is required. So remember that the kind of voltage which are being used for charging heavy vehicles are 13.0 kV AC. And this is 13.8 kV AC, which is being fed from the grid. It is not the voltage of this battery. It's going to be much more less. It depends on the rating of the battery only. It is DC, it is AC. And light high voltage DC is 1000 volt. So further, we know it, new technologies are very much affected by the cyber security issues as well. So cyber security aspect can be there. Have you heard about some months back there was an issue of cyber security? There is some kind of malfunctioning occurred in the power grid because of the cyber security issues. So it has to be taken care of. We have to make the system foolproof. We have to make the system cyber security features has to be taken care of, because it's not only power network. Now it has become power plus communication network. And whenever we are talking about communication network, it's going to be affected by it is prone to cyber attacks as well. So you see, if everything is controlled by communication, exchange of power, power delivery, power consumption, working of converter. So any kind, if you want to disrupt the system of any country, you can hijack its power infrastructure. And few hours of blackouts may lead to huge economical economical problems to the country, and further it's having a very negative impact on the image of the country, the kind of quality of the infrastructure of the country as well. So potential consequence of cyber attack is the it may give rise to malfunctioning of the whole system. So this is the grid. Smart meters are everywhere, and dotted line is showing control signals. Smart grid control center, it is connected to V2G control system. AC bus is there, two-way charging devices are there, battery back is connected, battery backpack or battery bank is connected to this two-way charging device. And this is power line, this is AC power line, and AC bus grid is connected to bus. Smart grid control center is controlling grid, it is controlling a smart meter, it is controlling V2G control system. V2G is connected with intelligence switches as well, and the whole infrastructure is composed of power lines as well as control lines. So everywhere control is there. So V2G control system is controlling intelligence switches, whether to connect it with the bus or not, and it is controlling charging devices. And this is one small model or simulation of vehicle to grid system. Microgrid is nothing but it is in itself is a complete unit. It's able to generate its power requirement of a certain area, as well as it's all the loads are able to match the requirement of the area. Like in this, we have taken a small system of 1,000 houses, and in 1,000 out of 1,000 houses, 100 cars are there, 100 electric vehicles are there. So, and we are assuming that each electric vehicle is of 40 kilowatt. So in all, V2G is it is a kind of load itself. So V2G is of 100 electric vehicles. So what is going to be the ratio? Out of 1,000, 100 electric cars are there. So ratio is car and houses 1:10. Ratio of 1:10 is there. So this can be the future scenario, is it so? In future, we can assume that out of 1,000 houses, 100 people have got electric vehicle. So one is diesel generator, which is considered as base load, and as it is diesel generator, it is not intermittent, it is not subjected to other condition. If diesel is available and machine is healthy, generator is healthy, it's able to provide up to 15 megawatt. So it's a base load kind of plant, and it is characterized by synchronous machine. So synchronous machine gives are able to maintain frequency. They gives constant speed, constant frequency, voltage. So this diesel generator should work at constant voltage, constant frequency. This is this is very reliable, stable sort of thing. This is, and there are two renewable sources. One is wind farm, another is PV farm. Wind farm is collection of wind turbines, and it is 4.5. So if we consider 1.5 megawatt turbines, how many turbines of 1.5 megawatt will constitute a wind farm of 4.5 megawatt? 1.5, it can, if there are 3 wind turbines of 1.5 each, so how many wind turbines will be there to form a wind farm of 4.5? 3. There may be wind turbines are available in various wind capacity. It's from 350 kilowatt up to as high as 7.5 megawatt as well. So various global players are there, like Vestas, Jet Electric, and in India, leading companies, Suzlon, and I worked with that organization as well. And, so wind farm is of 4.5 megawatt. The various factors which are affecting the power which is being taken from the wind is wind velocity. So if we forget, neglect other, once the wind turbine has been installed, its rotor area has been fixed, its height has been fixed, so we won't consider those factors. Only wind velocity is going to affect us largely. And in entire day, the wind profile is going to be variable. Throughout the day, wind velocity will keep on changing. Sometimes it may be as low as that it is not able to sufficient to generate even minimum amount of electricity which is required to be generated. And if wind velocity is very high, it will be removed from the, it will be disconnected from the grid as well. So again, it is intermittent. A PV farm, it is of 8 megawatt is there. So PV farm is again intermittent source. There may be partial shading, though it's forming a normal distribution during mid of the day. It's able to produce a high amount of power, but again there may be incidence of partial shading as well, so it may affect the output of it. So every day the output of solar power PV farm is not same. So, and it is connected further, a load is there. Most of our residential loads are there, so we have taken a load of 10 megawatt, and power factor 1.15 is quite low, it should not be there, it should be high. And asynchronous motor. There are asynchronous motor, most, as we already discussed, that most of the motors, those are being used in industry as well as for domestic purpose, like in our homes, like fan. We know it is single phase induction motor, and in industry, most of the motors in use are 3-phase induction motors. So the load has been assumed of 0.16 MVA. So load is having two components. One is residential, another is industrial, which is equivalent to 0.16 MVA. So, and one V2G system is there. Vehicle to grid load is also connected with the grid. So this is the transformer to match the voltage of the grid, and this is coupling transformer, and we can with 24-hour simulation we can find out the various kind of outputs. So for 24, if we see this MATLAB model for 24 hours, so solar, we talk about the amount of power that can be drawn from solar panel. It depends on the area of the solar farm, solar panel, and further it depends upon the irradiation as well. So throughout the day, and this is the irradiance in watt per square meter. So we can see, so 0 to 24 hours, so somewhere around early in the morning, in the night, there is no solar power. After 6 o'clock, after sunset, there is no power till 0. And during the day, from 7 o'clock in the morning up to 6 o'clock in the evening, solar power is there. And further peaks are there between midnight, midday of the, it's forming normal distribution. But there can be the case of some kind of cloudy weather or some kind of partial shading. So under that condition, this solar irradiation may have other kind of pattern as well. And variation of wind speed in 24 hours is further, it's highly zigzag, it's very much uncertain. It can be, it's a wind velocity in meter per second, wind speed in meter per second, and it's time in hours. So again, across 24 hours, the span of a day, it's it has got various wind speeds. So if wind speed is very low, below cut-in wind speed is the minimum wind speed required at which we can integrate the wind turbine to the grid. Because a lot of very high fluctuation of the power cannot be fed to the grid as well. And there are a lot of peaks and valleys, a lot of variations are there. Here it's very, very high. So definitely here it is required to disconnect the wind turbine from the grid, because if wind velocity is very high, it is unsafe to run the turbine at such a high speed. It's not able to handle very high speed, because the power being handled by the wind turbine is proportional to square of cubic of velocity. So even a small increase in velocity will definitely going to affect the power handling capacity to a large extent. So wind velocity, if it is quite high, maximum limit of speed of a particular turbine, we have to disconnect it from the grid. So under those conditions, when solar power is not available or wind power is not available and peaks are already there, we can use electric vehicle to give the supply to grid. Or suppose in off-peak hours like 1 to 7 in the morning, or during midnight after 9 o'clock, during night like 9 to 12 at night. In those hours, what we can do, we can charge the vehicle. Here as well as here, we can charge the vehicle. And whenever peak hours of loads are there, this is the pattern of daily consumption. This is the way we consume the power. It's a general kind of things, consumption in per unit. So in 24 hours, we can see our peak is around 5 to 6 o'clock, somewhere around here. We are going to experience the peak requirement of the power. During these peak hours of power, we can feed the power from electric vehicle to grid. So this is valley, this is peak. So we were discussing about load leveling. So this is load leveling. We have to cut down this peak and we have to fill this valley. So this is the main role of electric vehicle, to handle these two situations. If peak is very high, power requirement is very high, during those hours, electric vehicle should supply the electricity to grid, and efficient control mechanism and efficient battery control as well as controller control mechanism should be there. Willingness to participate in exchange of power from the owners should be there, from the aggregators should be there, so that peaks can be handled efficiently, as well as during, if the power requirement is very high here, if we can increase up to certain limit and we can decrease it to certain limit by inclusion of electric vehicles, load labeling can be achieved. So this is the apparent power produced by diesel generator is able to produce apparent power. In this simulation, what it is, three conditions are assumed, that here the wind velocity is as we saw that wind velocity is very high here, so here wind will not be available. So in these hours there will be one peak. In peak here electric vehicle can show its role. Three fault conditions or abnormal conditions are there. Suppose early in the morning there is some heavy load of heavy industrial load of asynchronous motors are connected, so it may give rise to the power requirement. And this is the scenario of voltage corresponding to V2G and current corresponding to V2G. Voltage should be uniform, but in case of three conditions, what we are assuming that here heavy asynchronous load is connected, induction motor industrial load is connected, so current requirement is high. Further here one power load, one partial shading of solar panel is there, so electric vehicle current has to be high. And here solar wind power is not able to provide power as due to high wind velocity. Under that condition, the current drawn from the vehicle to grid is high. So it's addressing. So these are the requirement of active power as well as reactive power. Charging voltage corresponding to V2G, it also depends on the, if voltage level is maintained, it's not going to be charged. And this is the apparent power produced by various kind of sources: PV, diesel and wind. PV is given by this orange, that sort of is the line, and diesel is given by black line, it's almost constant. Wind is further variable, and its summation of all three is given by blue line. So this is the final power which is being addressed, and electric vehicle has to address this, level this power requirement. This is active power profile, EV charge, and this is the summation of electric EV charge, asynchronous load and load. If we are considering EV charge, it's not EV, not how much charge, it's EV charging, asynchronous motor and loads together, they are charging the current power in this part. So now we can come to a conclusion. Electric vehicle does not reduce overall emission unless the country has a major 80% plus hydro, renewable and nuclear power stations. You know what does it mean? What does it mean? If our existing, if we are already rich enough in conventional sources like hydro, renewable and nuclear, except thermal, then only electric vehicle may contribute in reducing the overall emission. But if our major source of energy is thermal, and to cater to electric vehicle, we have to install more thermal power plant, then electric vehicle is not going to reduce the overall emission. And grid, definitely we cannot run any grid on the basis of intermittent sources only. We have to have stable sources of energy like thermal power plant. So if any country is rich in hydro and nuclear power generation, then only we can go for it. If we are depending largely on thermal power, it's not going to be very wide. So China, US, India together contribute around 50% of world's emission. It's really bad. Logically, only these should go for electric vehicle. We are also there. We should also go for electric vehicle. And it is large capacity energy device. They can act as a large storage devices for addressing the power system issues, for better operation, for reliable operation, for emergency power supply, for frequency regulation, peak shaping and valley filling, and to integrate the grid. The most important issue is we have to have cost-effective and efficient battery technologies for reducing the overall cost of the electric vehicle. Then only we can go for it. And more electric vehicles means more charging facility. That means more power station, more transmission line, more substation and distribution system are required. So initially we have to invest we have to pump a lot of money into it. Then only we can derive the benefit out of it. And it is the most affected segment is distribution. And we are the part of the load in distribution system. We are the loads, we will be affected. Harmonic distortion and voltage balance are the key topics of research work concerning power quality. And but still we can conclude that EV has a constructive influence on the environmental condition as they diminish CO2 emission. One thing is for sure. So ultimately, these are the various references. Thank you so very much for patient listening. You people gave me a good opportunity to be with you for around 2 hours. And definitely together we can make this world brighter, cleaner and cleaner. And if you want to contact me, my contact and mail ID is there. Thank you so very much. And if you have any questions.
Thank you, madam, for your time spending with us.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, madam. There are a few questions in the chat box, madam. After that, if recorded, the participants will ask the questions, madam.
Okay.
So there is a question from Siva Kumar. Can you please throw some light on torque, speed characteristics requirement for electric vehicle?
Actually, sir, your voice is not. It's very, very low.
Now, madam. Hello.
Yes, now it's better. Now it's better, sir. Can you repeat?
There is a question from Shivakumar sir.
Yeah.
Can you please throw some light on torque speed characteristics requirement for electric vehicle?
So it's like it depends on individual vehicle. It depends on the capacity of the vehicle requirement. There are vehicles of different HPs, and it depends on individual requirements as well. Because electric vehicle can be a car, it can be heavy duty vehicle, it can be medium vehicle. So the kind of motor that we are using and the kind of capacity of vehicle that we are using, it depends on that.
Thank you, madam. There is another question from Vivek Pandey.
Yeah.
What is the future of EV in our country? Although high number of fuel-based vehicles running on the road.
I feel so that the future is going to be bright because if by force or by something, it's like sustainable development goals are there. UN is pressing us to reduce the greenhouse emission of greenhouse gases. reduce the pollution level. And you see the current pandemic is further forcing us to see these things very critically. So we cannot ignore these issues anymore. So definitely, and a lot of subsidies, the new opportunities, objectives are already laid down, and rigorous work is going on in this direction. So definitely, it's going to we can see a giant leap in this direction.
Thank you so much, madam.
You're welcome, sir.
Participants, do you have any questions? You can
Once again, I
unmute
would
your
like
mic,
to thank
unmute,
your college.
unmute your mic, and you can ask one or two questions.
Thank you, Professor Neeti, for your communication, continuously be in touch with me. Thank you
Okay,
so much
madam.
for giving
Thank
me
you, madam.
opportunity.
Thank you, madam. There is a last question, madam. What about traffic load on the road, madam? What about traffic load on the road?
Yes, it's. I hope it's going to be increased, because once it will become cost effective, more and more people will go for it. And as the population is increasing, the standard of living of the people is already increasing, and safety issues, people are more safety concerned. Further, due to pandemic, we can see that now the requirement of private vehicle is more. People are avoiding to use public transport. So number of private vehicles are going to be increased, because flights are not there, railway infrastructure is already compromised. So facilities are compromised. We can expect that the traffic will increase, and if traffic is going to increase, we have to have some kind of thing that at least we can address pollution. And for addressing traffic issues, more infrastructure, more highways, more alternate roads, we have to have develop that kind of infrastructure. That is another area.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so
Once
much.
again, we are thanking you, madam. You are spending more than 2 hours with us, madam. So for your wonderful sessions and presentations, it is a very useful to all of us. Now it is the time for giving a vote of thanks, madam. Once again, I'm thanking you, madam.
Thanks to you all for giving me this opportunity to be with you all for 2 hours, and and the topic is such a wonderful one. It's very apt topic for the current scenario. Thanks a lot for all the organizers, head of the department, your principal, and organizers for giving me this opportunity. It's my distinct privilege. It's my pleasure and honor to be here.
Thank you, madam. Once again, I am good evening to all the participants. It is my privilege and a great joy for me to extend the vote of thanks on this second day, sixth session FDP on behalf of the members and the Department of Mechanical Engineering of Francis Xavier Engineering College and all the participants. I would like to thank Professor Dr. Sharika Srivastava, Director, Ashok Institute of Technology and Management, Varanasi, for your insightful presentation. All of us, we are especially interested in your talk on integration of electric vehicle to grid. Your talk is very useful, madam. When we are considering new initiatives for expanding growth, this presentation is very helpful to us. Thank you so much, madam, for spending time for your enrich our knowledge. Thank you so much. Participants, tomorrow we have 3 sessions. So we will meet again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.